sounds real dumb. Why did I say that? Hey, this is Megan in the restricted section. Today I'm going to do a video about how I rate books, and I was just going to talk about my 5-star rating scale and what each of the star ratings means to me. And I was also going to talk a little bit about my thought process when I'm trying to decide what to rate a book, and then also what a 1-star and a 5-star book would look like for me. So first of all, the 5-star rating scale for me is 1 star means I hate it, 2 means I don't like it, 3 is that I am kind of indifferent to it or I just think it's okay, 4 is that I like it, and 5 is that I love it. And then as far as my thought process whenever I'm reading books, I try to balance out in my mind kind of an average between how much I liked a book and how high quality I felt like it was. So I kind of try to average out the two. And I do put a little bit more weight on how much I liked the book. So a couple of examples of how this worked when I was reading books was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I did not like that book. I felt like it was torture porn and I didn't care for it. However, I do feel like it was really beautifully written, and I think Hanya Yanagihara did a really great job writing-wise, technically. So if I were rating it based on how much I liked it, I would have given it probably a 2-star rating. But because I felt like it was a pretty, quality piece of work, I ended up giving it 3 stars. I tried to balance out between the two. Another example of how this played out was the book Fated by S.G. Brown. I read that recently, and I really had I enjoyed my experience reading it. I had fun reading it. It was kind of silly and ridiculous, but I really enjoyed myself. So if I were just to rate that book based on how much I enjoyed it, I probably would have given it like a 4-star rating. However, I didn't feel like it was necessarily a high quality piece of literature, so I ended up giving it like a 3-star rating also. So I tried to balance out the two of those things in my mind. That being said, I did say that I give a higher weight to how much I enjoy reading the book, because for me, I read for the experience of reading. I read for fun, I read for enjoyment, I read to broaden my horizons, I read to, see new perspectives. So for me, reading is about the experience. I am not a professional critic. I do not have a literary degree or any kind of literary expertise in any form. I don't review things professionally for any kind of publication or anything like that. So for me, I rate books with my purpose for reading in mind. Since my purpose for reading is about the experience, I rate books with that in mind, and so I put a little bit more weight on that aspect. Like I said, I do consider the quality of the work, but that's not my ultimate goal. So if I were a professional critic, I probably would go about rating things a bit differently, but I'm not. So that's kind of my thought process. When I'm deciding what to rate books, that's kind of what goes through my mind. So what makes a 1-star book for me is, in order for me to rate something 1 star, I have to hate it. And it has to evoke some kind of strong negative emotion in me. I use my 1-star rating sparingly because for me that's like on the extreme end of the shit spectrum. So I have to feel pretty strongly about a book to give it a 1-star rating. And I don't feel strongly about much. So it's kind of hard to evoke those strong emotions in me. So, yeah, I just have to really hate it for whatever reason. It could be that there were some really problematic story elements like sexism, racism, things like that. There could be that I think it was, I couldn't follow it. I thought it was shit writing. The plot was full of holes. It could be any number of those things, but it has to, mainly it's about the feeling it evokes. It has to evoke a really strong, negative reaction from me to get a 1-star rating. Because otherwise, if I just don't like something, I'll just use my 2-star rating. but I have to really, really feel strongly about hating it for it to earn a 1. Then what does a 5-star book look like for me? A 5-star book would be kind of the 1-star thing in reverse. It would have to be a book that evoked a really strong positive emotion in me. And so that would just be a book that, like I said, I consider my experience and then I also consider the quality. So it would be a book for me that I felt like was a decent quality book or a good quality book, and that I also had a really overwhelmingly positive experience with. So I think some of the books I rated as 5-star this year were A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers and The Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. I loved both of those books. I had an overwhelmingly positive experience with both of them, and I loved the ideas and perspectives that those books brought to the table. So those are kind of what my 1 and my 5-star looks like. I try to use both of them sparingly, like I said, because they're on the extreme ends of the spectrum, and I feel like they should only be used in extreme cases. So that's kind of what I think about when I'm rating books. I also sometimes will go back and change my rating. So sometimes when I get done with a book, I'll be so focused on the experience of it that I'll rate it a little too heavily based on that. But then after I've had some time to think about it and process it and talk about the book a little bit more, I'll kind of reevaluate my rating and then I'll go back and change it. I can't think of an example of a book I did that with recently. But there have been books where I've rated them a certain thing and then I've gone back and upped or lowered it, you know, upon further thought. So that's my rating system. I don't know how anyone else goes about rating things, but that's kind of how I do it. So maybe how I do it is just how everyone does it, and you're watching this and you're like, yeah, stupid, I know. I don't know. So comment below and let me know how you go about rating books. What does your 5-star scale mean to you, and what kind of things do you think about when you're rating books? I would be interested to hear other perspectives on that. And there'll be links down below where you can find Sue and I elsewhere on social media, as per usual. If you're not already subscribed to the restricted section and you want to, you should do it. We're pretty cool. Our 1-year BookTube anniversary is coming up in February, next month. Oh shit, it's next month. And I think it would be really cool if we made it to 1,500 subscribers by that time. So if you're not already subscribed, come on aboard. It would be cool to have you here. So I think Sue and I have something pretty cool planned for that, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, so that's going to be it for me today, and I will see you next time.